You are listening to In Conversation with Jennie and Mark.
Hello everyone. I am the Reverend Jennie Adams from Holy Trinity Church, Prince Consort Road, South Kensington, and you are
The Reverend Mark Adams from St Margaret's Barking.
welcome.
Still there.
Hi everyone.
Still got that cleared up. That's good. Hasn't changed since last week.
We're going to crack straight on.
We're going to crack
on
straight
a bit of
on.
a time limit this morning, so
Jenny's got to
we're
be up
going
in
to look
London.
at Sunday's Gospel, challenging as usual.
Challenging as usual. Yeah, it's all pretty challenging, this Luke stuff, isn't it? You sort of look another one up and think, yeah, that's a tough one, and then you get another one, that's another tough one, and then that's another tough one. No wonder they said the teaching was hard.
I thought last week's was bad, this one. Oh, here we go. Right.
Here we go. So, Jenny, I think you're going to read, aren't you?
I am indeed. Okay, starting at verse 19. There was a rich man who was dressed in purple and fine linen, and who feasted sumptuously every day. And at his gate lay a poor man named Lazarus, covered with sores, who longed to satisfy his hunger with what fell from the rich man's table. Even the dogs would come and lick his sores. The poor man died and was carried away by the angels to be with Abraham. The rich man also died and was buried. In Hades, where he was being tormented, he looked up and saw Abraham far away with Lazarus by his side. He called out, "Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am in agony in these flames." But Abraham said, "Child, remember that during your lifetime you received good things, and Lazarus, in a like manner, evil things. But now he is comforted here, and you are in agony. Besides all this, between you and us, a great chasm has been fixed, so that those who might want to pass from here to you cannot do so, and no one can cross from there to us." He said, "Then, Father, I beg you to send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers, that he may warn them, so that they will not also come into this place of torment." And Abraham replied, "They have Moses and the prophets, they should listen to them." He said, "No, Father Abraham, but if someone goes to them from the dead, they will repent." And he said to them, "If they do not listen to Moses and the prophets, neither will they be convinced, even if someone rises from the dead." Shall we start with what it's
I
not?
think probably a moment of pause is necessary. Anyway, there we go.
I'd like to start with what it's not.
Okay, what is it not?
Okay, because there's a danger of we could end up with works will get us into heaven. So this is not a story of God's grace. There are many, many, many stories of that, many teachings of it. This is a parable.
It's a parable. Yeah, agreed. I agree with that. Yeah.
It is a parable to teach us something, but
in
yes.
fact, because if you really, the other way that I read that if you really push this to its logical conclusion, then it's definitely better for the poor to stay poor, because then they're going to heaven.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a parable. It's a story with a message. It's not necessarily well, one of the books that I read said it's not necessarily 5 minutes after you die kind of thing. This is a parable, which has got a lesson for us, an important one. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're agreed on that.
Uncomfortable for 2 reasons. One, because it's a blatantly obvious message. It's like it's quite hard to dress it up, really. and the second
Well,
one,
I read that actually it's interesting. It was quite a common story, and it appears in lots of different cultures. And that Jesus is
yeah,
given
I've heard that.
and
Yeah.
Jesus is giving it a Jewish twist, well, understandably, by introducing Abraham. And interestingly, it's often called Lazarus and Dives. You read out of the authorized version, don't you, at Holy Trinity?
Yeah.
And it'll probably say Lazarus and Dives, but Dives is not the man's name. Dives is just the word for rich man. Whereas Lazarus is the only parable where someone gets a name, which I think is interesting and noteworthy.
Yeah. And interesting that it's Lazarus. I mean, they haven't just called him, Dave, have they?
So what's the connection there? What's the other Lazarus who gets
raised by God, I would say.
Yeah.
There must be some connection. I'm not sure what it is, but it feels as though that it's
well,
worthwhile.
that's the only one of the commentaries I was reading made that connection as well.
So do you think the reason it's in a lot of cultures is, I mean, it's got a lot of Plato thinking, hasn't it, as well, which makes me a bit uncomfortable. We
Okay.
fly up to heaven in the sky, or
Okay.
we go
Yes.
down to
Yes.
Hades, down to
Well, one of the other interesting things that I read was that is that actually in quite a lot of the other cultural stories, they are allowed to send a message back as a warning, but here they're not.
Oh, right, okay.
So, there's a sort of, it is very much a be careful how you live, isn't it? It's very much
Yeah.
what you do matters. And of course, and it's very much on the theme of money, which is just again and again and again, hasn't it? All the way through Luke, all the way through this summer, it's been like a constant. This is what Jesus is talking a lot about, and he's talking about it here. I think you've got to put it back into. So there's been a little bit of a gap between what we read last week, the parable of the shrewd steward, and
Food.
this week there are 4 verses, and one of the verse that introduces this section talks about how he's being criticized by the Pharisees, who are always around to be helpfully critical, and their attitude to money, and that's really what this parable is about, and that actually the core of the message from one of the things that I understood, which I kind of like this, is that it's the Pharisees justified their wealth because they saw it as a blessing from God. So I've been good, essentially. I'm blessed by God. I'm wealthy. You've been bad or evil or sinful. Therefore, you are suffering, poor person. And that actually that is justifiable from a read of the Hebrew Bible. That in the law you can read that, but that it's not the whole picture. And that what Jesus is doing here is he's taking them to task for that mindset, because obviously what you see in the parable is that that's completely reversed. The rich person ends up in the place of pain, and the poor person ends up nestled in Abraham's, comfort.
I'm just going to let you rabble on for a little bit because, I think that's obvious. I think we've said that over and over again. The
Well,
belief
it
was
might be
that
obvious
money
to
came from
you.
God.
It
I
might be
think
obvious to you, but it's
I
Jesus
think
is.
we have said that a lot. The belief was that all money, was a gift from God for being good.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely, and this is what
and the
Jesus is re-emphasizing again
poor
here.
people. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think. Um,
yeah.
but is it about money or is it about power? I know the two are linked, but I feel that this one's more about power than actual money.
Well, I think you've got to justify that. I mean, they are linked, but yeah, go on.
I don't know. I think it's a lot more about him being ignored. And I believe that if he was sitting at the gate, there was an expectation to give your money to him if you were rich. It was a bit like the buddy bench at school. Did you have the buddy bench for your children's
No,
school?
no.
Oh, it was a bad idea. So they created a buddy bench. So if you hadn't got any friends, you went to sit on it, which yeah, loser.
What up? Who thought that was a good idea?
Yeah, absolutely. I was mortified to find once that one of my children went to sit on it. It's like, no, don't sit on the loser bench.
So
You'll never
Lazarus
get
is on the
anywhere.
loser bench. Well, he is on the loser bench. That's true.
Okay, but in the same, the idea was that if you went and sat on the buddy bench, somebody would come and ask you to go and play with them, join them to play because they would see that you were on your own. I
Yeah,
can see the reasoning.
yeah.
Just there were people like me, and that doesn't work. However, I believe that there were certain places, and I think a gate was one of them, where actually, if you were sat there, it was almost expected that you would be given food. Or, yeah.
I don't see how that makes it about power and not about money, though.
Because it's being dismissive to ignore him. And I think
Okay.
the worst thing you can do is dismiss somebody.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I don't think that. Well, yeah, okay. I don't think that necessarily. I think you're right. The two are linked. I'm not sure that that's necessarily in opposition to the sort of money power dynamic.
Mm.
You could put both together. Neither do I think it undercuts the thing that I was saying, which apparently we've said many times, but for some reason doesn't apply here that I don't quite understand, that, you know, they're using a theology to justify their actions. So they're using a theology, aren't they, that God has blessed me with this wealth. And actually, again, at its worst, a little bit like the, you know, don't people take people out of their poverty because then they're going to get to heaven. You know, I'm justified in not helping you because God is punishing you, and therefore I'm alleviating God's punishment by helping you, which is, you know, pushing these kind of theological ideas to their
I
extreme.
don't think that was to believe. Well, I do believe the blessing came from God, but I don't think they ever thought that they were undercutting God by giving money.
I think you can take it to that. It becomes a logical extension of the argument, doesn't it? But if we bring it up to date, I think we very much think like that. You know, you're poor because you've made a mistake, or because you've made a bad life choice, or because you don't work hard enough.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna. Why should I help you? Why should I? You know, you've got yourself into this position. You can get yourself out of it. You don't actually. You know, that in one sense, that's capitalism. That's getting on my soapbox now, but you know, that's
I think you're very right.
That's what we think. You know, you know. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? We went to McDonald's in Barking on Sunday morning. It was
heartbreaking.
And it was heartbreaking. And I had 2 free McMuffin vouchers, didn't I?
Yeah.
And I gave these McMuffin. And as we were walking up to McDonald's, we were saying, because we had to be at church early, so we went and had some breakfast. And you know, as we were walking up to McDonald's, we said, we don't really need to use these McMuffin vouchers. By the time you've bought a coffee and a hash brown and whatever to go with it, might as well just buy the breakfast. So I thought, yeah, fair enough. So I gave these 2 McMuffin vouchers, didn't I, to this guy sitting up. I mean, you know, you just describe his reaction. I mean, it was heartbreaking, wasn't it?
I mean, he cried, didn't he? He cried, and he kept coming back. And then my favourite thing is he wanted to give one away.
I know, he wanted to give one away.
Wanted to give one away.
Yeah, absolutely. And
yeah,
you know, so I think that's, you know, it is. Yeah, I mean, it is very. This is very.
But you're right. People, there is this narrative that people in that position, because of something they've done, they've made a mistake, they've made a bad choice, and sometimes they have.
Maybe they have.
We all make bad choices. I mean, that doesn't mean we're all sleeping rough. Yeah, we all make bad choices. I mean, I did have a conversation not that long ago that somebody said, so should I give them money? Because I always think they're going to go and buy a drink with it. And I went, well, they probably are. I said, I pour a gin and tonic if I've had a bad day. They're having a constant bad day.
Yeah, and then another woman came in who said I mean, you know, she said, I'm 9-day clean, but she said it's really hard living on the streets to stay clean, and that was not alcohol, that was harder drugs.
No, but, absolutely, and it is.
That it's really hard living on the street, and therefore, I suppose, you know, this is really interesting when you bring it into that kind of context and our own thinking and what's in our media at the moment about, you know, those in need and asylum seekers and refugees and those, you know, this is all kind of very current. Why should we help them? We don't have to have anything to do with them. It's their fault. You know, I've earned what I've got. You know, and actually, this parable really challenges a lot of that. It really challenges a lot of that. And when you bring it into that kind of thinking, it's really difficult. It's really difficult. How then should we live? You know, I think that's been the question for me all the way through. I think
we should also acknowledge it is really difficult, because we did give those vouchers away and we did buy breakfast, but then we got asked for more and more and more.
And then we got asked for more. Yeah,
and we said people are desperate and they'll.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So you do need to know your boundaries as well. But
I think, you know, coming back to the parable, there is this sort of dismissive thing, isn't it? You know, it just completely ignores him, you know, does nothing. And yes, maybe it won't make giving somebody a McDonald's voucher that didn't even cost me anything anyway, which is like really freaky. But you know, I'm not trying to claim that as some great act of altruism. I mean, I didn't even pay for the flipping things. But
from last time we succumbed and went to McDonald's.
You know, I mean, it's just like, but you know, let's not overplay that. But on the other hand, you know, it is being aware, isn't it? And awareness is the start. You have to start with awareness and not get into this mindset of, I don't have any responsibility to you because I've earned everything that I've got. No, I was talking about this last week in my sermon. You know, the passage that we're using is, all things come from you, God, and out of your own do we give you. And we have to try and think that way more, I think.
Yes, it's not our money. I tied into that one a bit, because of
Yeah.
course we had the story of Charlie
Yeah.
and my money,
Yeah.
but it's not my money, you know.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But then,
And
of
then, of
course,
course,
that feeds into that if all things come from God and it's not our money, all God, our money is a blessing from God because we've done well. You can see where they're getting it from.
well,
in
you
all of
can do. You can definitely. I think the thing I was reading, I think which is true. You can, in a partial reading of the Hebrew Bible, justify that theology, but you can't justify that theology if you have a more holistic reading of it, and you certainly can't justify that theology if you're claiming to be a follower of Jesus Christ, because this is his teaching. I think is where I'm. I just want to talk a little bit about the final verses as well before we finish, because I think, there's just a real bit of tongue-in-cheek irony coming up here, isn't there? Send them back, because even if somebody rises from the dead, they'll believe.
Yeah.
And of course we know where that's going, don't we? I think.
On two levels, yes, we know where it's going. But also, just story-wise, if you just take it without Jesus' resurrection in it, it's so true, isn't it? What would it take for someone to believe? If you're not going to read this, if you're not going to listen, if you're not going to, you could see a miracle and you wouldn't recognize it as a miracle, would you?
Yeah.
We've all met those people. I just feel it down to the bottom of my boots. Yeah, they're not going to believe.
Yeah, I mean, because I guess in one sense it comes to taking things for granted, doesn't it? So the fact that that the sort of deep philosophical question, really, why is there something rather than nothing? Well, we take it for granted that there's something rather than nothing because here we are. But actually, actually we are here, and that is itself extraordinary, and demands some kind of answer. But and yeah, so that's not enough. The law and the prophets aren't enough. But somebody rising from the dead will be enough. No, says Jesus. No, it won't. It won't. Even that won't be enough. And I'm going to, in one sense, I'm going to show you that that's not going to be enough for everybody. Which brings up lots of interesting questions, doesn't it? Around, why then do we believe? Why do some people not believe? That there seems to be.
Yeah. What would it take? What does it take? I mean,
what's it going to take? Yeah. What's it going to take? And I guess.
Can I make one final point? Because I know we're running out of time.
Yeah.
And I read this. I did do some reading, just read, and I hadn't noticed. But at the beginning, there was a gate that separated Lazarus and the rich man.
Ooh,
and in the end, there was a chasm. And I thought, I like that.
Oh, I like that.
So there's almost an urgency of act when there's a gate, because you can't act when there's a
absolutely. Which of course links back into last week's reading about the shrewd manager. Read the signs, and the thing about the weather forecasting. Read the signs of the times. Yeah, you're right. There's an urgency. Don't just think you can keep putting it off. I like that. So so the gate, yes, there's a barrier, but you can walk through it. The chasm is now
can't get across.
Yeah. So how should we live? Which is, how then should we live? Which is always a question that confronts us, isn't it? But I think, there's not a lot of grace in this parable. In fact, there's no grace in this parable. But, you have to see it. I think it's important. You have to see it as a parable.
It is a parable.
It's a parable. And that, you can't therefore divorce that parable from the wider context of the gospel and what it means. But, there's a challenge in it.
Shall we leave it there?
Do we leave it there? We'll leave it there. Thank you for listening. If you've got this far. We will be back. We will be back next week, won't we? We'll be back next week.
Okay. Right. Take care, all.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to In Conversation with Jennie and Mark. Please subscribe for more episodes on all the usual podcast platforms.